All right, guys, I want to talk to you about the Pawleys Island Community Church.
Sex offender is accused of violating his probation by volunteering at Pawleys Island Community Church, where an elementary school, preschool, and daycare all operate on the same campus. Georgetown County investigators say their investigation into registered sex offender Warren Perry is now focused on more than just his alleged probation violation. They're also trying to determine who knew that he had access to children.
Exactly who knew what, when did they know it, and what kind of exposure did the bad guy in this case have with these children.
Excuse me? Excuse me? Excuse me? Excuse me?
Yeah, we're taking him into custody because of the complaints and the information that we've received between yesterday and today. He will go to bond court.
What complaints have you received that he was in violation of his?
He's had contact with minors. 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 He's not allowed to have contact with minors.
Define contact with minors. Define contact with minors. Define contact with minors. Define contact with minors.
Going in classrooms, like he can't be in the same room with minors.
Okay. If he ever was, he always left. He always left. He always left. He always left. He was not going into classrooms with minors.
Right.
He was not going into classrooms with minors.
Right.
He was not going into classrooms with minors.
Right.
He was not going into classrooms with minors.
Right. So he'll go to an administrative hearing on July 29th, and I'm pretty positive he wants you to be present to speak on his behalf.
These photos right here, along with numerous others, along with numerous others, along with numerous others, along with numerous others, clearly show Mr. Perry in close proximity to the children. And who do you think allowed that? This is sickening that Don Williams, Jenny Williams, Nikki Howard, and Warren Perry all colluded to knowingly and willfully placing our children in harm's way.
You are not
transparent. You are not transparent. You are not transparent. You're reading the handbook. He still let a pedophile around our kid. He still let a pedophile around our kid. He still let a pedophile around our kid.
Lies, zero accountability. I mean, do you anything you want to add to that?
Lies and
zero accountability.
Yeah.
Our kids deserve better.
First at 11, 3 new suspects are in custody tonight in the ongoing investigation into a registered sex offender who served as a volunteer around children at Pawleys Island Community Church.
The recently resigned pastor, his wife, and the academy director now facing charges of conspiracy and obstructing justice.
According to the Georgetown County Sheriff's Office, a 5th arrest was made Wednesday. Michael Anthony Fields is the director of operations at the church and was responsible for the security of the entire campus, as well as the safety of the students of the Pawleys Island Christian Academy.
One lawsuit alleges a child was sexually abused in 2022.
Investigators executed a search warrant at Pawleys Island Community Church and Pawleys Island Christian Academy Sunday.
He had done not only to me, but to others as well. Because during this time, again, this is before probation, that he began to work with our staff member and help around the campus. Always, always, always supervised by our staff member. Mr. Perry wanted to stay involved with working with our facilities. So we put stringent safeguards and accountability measures in place. The county was aware that he was volunteering on our campus, which includes the school, and we're given a list of our restrictions as well. Mr. Perry was never to be alone with a child. Never. If a child greeted him, he could respond politely so as not to be rude to the child, but it was not to initiate or engage in extended conversations with the child. He was always to remain with the eyesight of a co-worker who knew his history and understood the restrictions placed upon him. Over the years, with urge and praise, we believe, based on Mr. Perry's repeated assurances, we believe, based on Mr. Perry's repeated assurances, we believe, based on Mr. Perry's repeated assurances, that he was complying with the requirements of his probation. Many of you are carrying one question above all others.
Pastor Don Williams says going forward, the church and academy will be doing thorough background checks on volunteers, but parents are still questioning why that wasn't already the case.
Now we're going to start screening volunteers. That's interesting that you weren't doing that before.
And many parents believe this session wouldn't happen if the truth wasn't uncovered.
He had no emotion. He was reading from a script. He thought that he was just doing what he was supposed to do because they got caught. This has been going on since 2023, and only because people have spoken up, this meeting has happened.
Meanwhile, teachers and parents believe this whole situation is far from over.
We've exposed children from 3 completely different schools to a pedophile.
It's very sad, really, because, I mean, this guy knew he was a sex offender. He allowed him to be in the proximity of children, and he denies it. He literally says something to the effect of, well, he left, or he, you know, he was never in proximity with you. He was never in the same room with a child. And then the sheriff actually provided photos showing that he literally was in proximity of children. So it's very sad. Here we go again with another church cover-up, another pastor covering up. And it's so sad to me, because why would you jeopardize the safety of the children of the church in order to, you know, somehow show kindness and compassion to a convicted sex offender? I don't get it. But anyway, the point is we're gonna study that. We're gonna look at several things here. What could a safety team have done, if anything, and how can we basically help our safety teams to make sure nothing like this happens in our church. Now, I'm also going to show you a video of the meeting where the pastor gets up and tries to explain himself. He goes through several pages of a letter I think he was trying to read. The people are furious. It is a very, very contentious meeting, and it's very important that we as a safety team understand how this works. We understand we work under the auspices of a church. We also work at the pleasure of the pastor and the staff and the leadership of the church that gives us any kind of authority, if we have any, of protection and oversight, or overwatch, not oversight, but overwatch. And so what could a safety team have done? Apparently this church did have some kind of security personnel or a security person, but this person was not involved in either this discovery, the protection, or even the oversight of this convicted sex offender who was working there at the school. Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about the cover-up. The pastor, his wife, and the director of the school have all been arrested on charges stemming from conspiracy, criminal conspiracy to obstruction of justice and placing a minor in a dangerous situation. So those are all legal things, and those are all crimes that these guys could be convicted of. Now, I want to warn you, as a safety team member, you have a duty to obey the law. And if you find somebody, or there is somebody in your church that is disobeying a law, whether it be a direct order from a court or a violation of his probation or something like, you learn of that, you have a duty to report that, just like you have a duty to report sex abuse or child abuse, any kind of abuse. So that said, if you're involved in a safety team, your duty first is to the Lord, and then to the church, to protect the church's name, but also to protect the children that are involved. Now, I don't give a rip about this guy, okay? Warren Perry. You say, well, you should show compassion and love. I do show compassion and love, but on the other hand, my children and the children of that church are way more important to me than this person feeling loved, okay? I don't give a rip about Warren Perry. He doesn't need to be there at the church around children of God, your children, my children, the children of God's people. They have value. And I don't understand the value that this church staff placed upon this Warren Perry guy, because they literally sacrificed their church, and I think all of these people have since resigned. So this church that had, this Don Williams and his wife as their pastor for 27 years, now they've got to go through the task of finding a pastor. They got to go through the task of picking up the pieces of this tragic situation. So I don't stand with the preachers. I don't stand with the staff that try to cover things up. I think the days of sweeping stuff under the rug are over, thankfully, hopefully, and you cannot hide this stuff anymore. You can't ship a guy off to another church somewhere and hope that he doesn't do it again, or, this is stuff that's real, and this is stuff that needs to be dealt with. So Fundamental Baptists, get your act together. Independent Baptists, get your act together. You need a safety team. You need checks and balances. You need accountability. Second thing, accountability. Background checks. You need background checks everywhere. You need video surveillance everywhere in the church to protect yourself and to protect the children that we serve. You need to have a safety team that watches for grooming behavior, that's been trained in that. We have a sex offender registry in our county, and we check that regularly at our church. Yes, we believe in restoration. Yes, we believe in salvation, and God can change lives and all of that, but not at the expense of our children. If you've made that kind of an error, done that kind of a crime in your life, we love you. We're sorry that happened. We're sorry that you did that, and we want you to be restored to Christ. But on the other hand, get away from our children, okay? We're not going to play around with that. There's a reason why sex offenders have to go on a lifelong sex offender registry. Many of them, it's lifelong, so for the rest of their lives. Why? Because, being a sex offender is a grievous thing, and it has been shown that many of these guys never get over it. They never get past it. They never get restored. They may do right, they may stay right, and that's a good thing. We want that, but we don't want them hanging around our children or grandchildren. And then the last thing is this, considering the violent church meeting that happened afterwards, or when the guy was making his apology, giving his apology letter, the people were livid. The people were angry. They were bitter. there was an opportunity for violence. So what happens in that situation? Do you protect the pastor and the staff? These people that ended up quitting anyway and leaving the ministry, or they probably would have been fired or discharged anyway. But I don't know that that's true, because this particular church is a community church, but it was found out during the arrest warrants that Don Williams was literally the owner and operator of the church. So he has some legal ties to that now. That being said, there's a lot of fundamental Baptist churches that are that way. You guys need to get some accountability. But let's talk about the meeting. So the meeting became very bitter. It was they were agitated. The crowd became violent. Seemed to be becoming more and more violent. Violence could have broken out in that service. So who do we protect? Do we protect the pastor and the staff? Absolutely. We're not protecting them from allegations. We're not protecting them from accusations that might be hurled at them during the service. And we're certainly not going to try to stop the crowd from expressing their bitterness and anger. That would not have been a good way to handle that. But what we do is we try to keep it civil. We make sure that there's no violence. We make sure that there's no weapons involved. And we stand between, let them have it out. And I'm not sure that I wouldn't have been one of those that would have been arguing or, at least standing against that. But as a safety team member, our goal is to try to keep the violence out. Now, if it looks like it's becoming violent, the first thing you're going to do is call the police. Call them and say, I'm at the such and such church. I'm a safety team member. We're having a business meeting, or we're having some kind of a meeting. We're having a meeting and it's becoming violent, or it sounds like it's becoming violent. We need police presence. And when the police show up, they may not disperse the crowd, they may not do anything, but you may want them there in case something does become violent and there is laws broken. So you want to have police presence if possible. You want to brief the safety team before the meeting. Hopefully you'll have a heads up that the pastor's going to make an announcement, and if the pastor's going to make an announcement, he may want to give a heads up to the safety team. Hey, there may be a problem here. There may be some agitation. There's going to be some disagreement, something of that nature, and then have your people stationed throughout the auditorium to intervene should violence break out. And then, as the people began to become more and more violent, or more and more agitated, and more angry, and as they began to approach the platform, it's not a bad idea to have safety team members, sort of position themselves in the front and position themselves between the people. It gives kind of a psychological barrier, but also a physical barrier in case something violent happens. So you want to be careful about that. We don't want that to happen. Now, some people have said, well, they shouldn't have been filming it. And, okay, we don't live in 1985, okay? People have cell phones. They're going to record stuff. You're not going to be able to hide it anymore. Even when preachers get up and tell everybody, hey, turn your phones off, put your phones in your pocket, stuff like that, that almost gives people an incentive to go ahead and film it. So I don't know that that's a thing you can police. Maybe you could try it, I guess, but on the other hand, it's going to happen. So I would just understand that it's going to happen and try to be aware that it is possible we could have some filming of this interaction, and it could go on YouTube or online, and that's a possibility. You be aware of that. And then lastly, we want to have the right testimony for the Lord. As safety team members, we don't want to get a fight and a scuffle with anybody. We don't want to go hands-on with anybody unless there is a direct threat of physical bodily harm, and it doesn't have to be with a weapon, but it could be somebody who just starts rushing the preacher or something. And it doesn't have to be a situation where you're protecting the preacher and saying, okay, I agree with the preacher. You don't have to agree with the preacher. You don't have to agree with the staff. And I probably would have been with this situation. But it might be a situation where you're just standing there to protect them against violence and protect them from doing so, and protect the people of the church also from doing something that they will regret and end up going to jail for. So you don't want that. All right, safety team, leave your comments. Let's talk about it. I'm open to suggestions and comments. There's some of you who have experience in this, and I appreciate you guys, giving us some wisdom in this. Let's keep our eyes on the Lord. Let's keep our eyes open to the congregation and watch out for these bad things that happen. Let's protect our children. Let's protect our vulnerable ones. And let's keep the testimony of the Lord right, and do our best to keep the testimony of the church right as best we can.